You've probably heard the famous story of the sheep and the goats a million times, right? Where people are judged by how they treated the least of these. We usually take it as this beautiful, universal call to help anyone in need. But what if? What if that common interpretation misses the real point? Okay, let's really get into this, because the original context points to something way more specific, and honestly, a lot more challenging.
The entire passage, the whole thing, really hinges on this one simple question. Who is Jesus actually talking about here? Is it every single poor, hungry, or imprisoned person on the planet, or does he have a very specific group of people in mind? The answer, you'll see, changes absolutely everything.
So here's the core tension. On one hand, you've got the common view, and it's a great one: help anyone and everyone in need. But when you take a deeper look at the text, it really seems like Jesus is talking specifically about his own traveling disciples, the messengers he was sending out. And if that's true, the judgment of the nations isn't just about general kindness. It's about how they respond to his specific representatives. Now, what's so fascinating is that this passage isn't some vague moral test to see if you're a good person. Jesus isn't just throwing around feel-good humanitarian language here. No way. He's actually building on a foundation he has spent his entire ministry laying down. To really unlock this passage, we have to see it for what it is, the grand finale to all his earlier teaching. You see, to really understand Matthew 25, you can't just drop into it cold. We have to look at what Jesus has already said. All these key terms like little ones, brothers, even the idea of the coming of the Son of Man, he's already defined them for us earlier in the Gospel of Matthew. He's not introducing new ideas here. He's bringing a massive argument to its powerful conclusion. So the first big clue is figuring out how Jesus himself defines his family. And the answer is right there if we just connect the dots using his own words from earlier in his ministry. This is where it all starts to click. For example, check this out from Matthew chapter 10. Jesus explicitly connects the term little ones with being a disciple. He's not talking about children or just any vulnerable person. He's talking about his followers, the very people he's sending out on a mission. This is a critical link. And then bam, he does it again. Someone asks about his family, and Jesus completely redefines what brother means. It's not about blood, it's about obedience to God. His brothers, they're his followers. They are his spiritual family. So when he later says, the least of these my brothers, he means this exact group. So let's just put it all together. The least of these my brothers isn't some general catch-all term. It's a specific title for his disciples, his spiritual family, the ones he's sent out into the world as his representatives, like sheep sent to find other lost sheep. But wait, it doesn't stop there. The second huge piece of this puzzle takes us all the way back to the Old Testament. You see, this whole imagery of separating sheep from goats, it's not new. Jesus is pulling this metaphor directly from the prophet Ezekiel, who used it to talk about a judgment inside Israel itself. In Ezekiel 34, God basically calls out the corrupt leaders of Israel. He calls them shepherds, who were supposed to care for the flock, but instead just fed themselves. They totally neglected and exploited God's people. And this theme of bad leadership is something Jesus has been talking about his entire ministry. So, who are the goats in Jesus' parable? Well, they're the new, modern-day, corrupt shepherds. They're the ones who, just like those leaders of old, neglect God's people. And in the context of Matthew 25, that means the people who reject and fail to take care of Jesus' messengers, his little ones. This brings us to a much sharper, clearer contrast, doesn't it? The sheep are the ones who welcome and show hospitality to Jesus' disciples. The goats are the ones who turn them away, who slam the door in their face. The judgment, then, is all about how people treat the messengers of the king. Okay, so we've dug into what this passage meant in its original context. But so what? Why does this matter for us? Let's talk about the practical side, because this interpretation really has a huge impact on how we think about the mission of anyone who follows Jesus. Here's the crucial takeaway. The good news, the gospel, was never meant to be just a verbal message, just a list of beliefs you agree with. For the original audience, the idea of separating your words from your actions would have made no sense. The message had to be demonstrated through real, tangible acts of care. So here's how it works. Jesus sends his disciples out. They speak the message, for sure, but they also live it out by feeding hungry people and caring for the sick they meet along the way. Their actions make their words authentic. And here's the kicker. How the world responds to them, both to their words and their actions, is how they are directly responding to Jesus. All right, so let's do a quick recap of the main points from this explainer. We've seen that the least of these are Jesus' disciples on a mission. The final judgment, then, isn't about being a generally nice person, but about how people respond to these messengers. This means caring for them is literally the same as caring for Jesus himself. And the big final takeaway? Real faith has to be visible in both what we say and what we do. And so we come full circle, right back to this incredibly powerful verse. But now it just carries a totally new weight, doesn't it? It's not just a call for general charity. It's a profound statement about the unbreakable identity between Jesus and his followers. When you welcome his messenger, you're welcoming him. And when you reject them, you are rejecting him. And all of this leaves us with a final, really challenging question to think about. It's not just about what we believe in our heads or the words we say out loud. It's about whether that belief becomes tangible, whether it becomes real. Does our lifestyle actually back up our message? In the end, this passage is really asking, is our faith something that can truly be seen?